So you're not seeing the results you want from your children. And they speak to you in a way that when you were growing up, if you spoke to your parent that way, you would have to go run and hide. So you ask yourself, what happened? Where did I go wrong? Why don't they listen? The problem with most parenting is that parents are either trying too hard to be their child's friend and wanting them to have the ability to grow and be nurtured in a way that they're able to express themselves, which is okay. However, children and teenagers still need that guidance element and from an adult. And the second part is that parents do not follow through on consequences that they say or give their children. And therefore, the child knows that if they have negative behavior, there will be no negative result on their part. Trying to protect our children from the wrath of the world is not going to be beneficial to them as they grow up. You see, overprotecting kids does not help them deal with real life situations. Instead, it's important to help them by talking them through the situation and giving them strategies on how to deal with the unfairness in the moments things happen. Because ultimately in life, they're going to continue to happen, and you will not always be there to protect them. So, as a part of creating strong children, we as adults, parents, teachers, caregivers need to be the best guides possible to help children through difficult situations. Because rejection, failure, and unfairness are simply a part of life for all of us. And we need to be disciplined enough to not allow other people impact us to the point where we stop growing or achieving what we want in life. Our struggles ultimately become our strength. I was just listening last night to the interview with Oprah and Viola Davis, and how, as a young person, she grew up extremely poor. She was chased home from school every day because of the color of her skin, and she was constantly told that she was ugly. However, through her struggles in those situations that she faced, she found strength within her to know how much she loved to act and acting. And she was able to find strength within herself to not allow what other people said stop her from what she wanted to achieve. So, whether you're talking about discipline for our children or self discipline, it all stems from that burning desire. How bad do we want to achieve something in our life? How bad do you, as a parent, want your child to grow up and be a successful human being who has followed their dreams and perhaps got knocked down a few times, but ultimately have the strength within them to get back up and not quit on themselves, not fail? Another big mistake in teaching discipline is that parents oftentimes feel guilty when they don't give in to their children. A lot of parents let children manipulate their feelings and ultimately give in to what the child wants because they feel guilty, or they allow their teen to say, "You don't love me." So and so's parents let them do it. "I hate you. You're the worst parent ever." Sound familiar? I have a parent whose child is completely out of control, and she often comes to me for advice as being a friend and a principal of the school where her child goes, and asks, "Why does my son behave in school and when he's with you, but when he's with me, he doesn't listen and he does whatever he wants?" So I frankly told her it is because, number one, you don't pay enough attention to him. You don't do quality activities with him. You being there on your phone, working, creating videos for social media, and him being with a nanny most of the day or at school, and then having to compete with his two brothers. The only way you give him attention is when he does something bad. And that's all he wants: quality time with his mother. And she also felt guilty because he was born from a different father than her other two children. And for the first few years of her life, she was the single mother raising him, and always felt guilty about the fact that he was different than the other children. And I said, "But he does not know that. Your guilt comes from within you. And now, because you don't want to set boundaries, you let him do whatever he wants simply because you feel guilty. Also, you're allowing him to do whatever he wants because it's easier. So then you don't have to deal with him because you're trying to balance children and work, and you're ultimately creating a monster. I have always found that with the children of my school, and I have had multiple children in my school, teachers would often come to me, parents would often come to me wanting help with quote unquote disciplining their child. It's about setting boundaries. And it's about explaining why there are boundaries. And it's about understanding why they did what they did. I also discipline from a loving standpoint. My students know that I set boundaries and follow through because I want them to do well, not because I want to make their life more miserable or give them more work to do, but because I truly care. And that is what gives me their respect. But it is not a 2-minute conversation that you have with a teenager or child after years of not having or setting boundaries with your children. The more you can explain to young people about why you are doing something for them and that it is because you love them or it's something beneficial to them, the easier it will be for you to have a solid foundation and relationship with them so that they will automatically understand when you say no or when you tell them that they need to do something. It's simply because it's good for them, and then they believe you. Most kids today think that they are the center of the universe, and that's okay to a point. However, you need to raise independent children. All of a sudden, young people are raised being told what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and then all of a sudden, they get to 18 years old and they're told, okay, now what are you going to do with your life? Now you got to go out there. Now you have to fend for yourself. When they were coddled, protected, and thought they couldn't fail at anything because their parent was their safety net. Also, when certain circumstances happen in school, at home, or maybe for their first job that isn't fair or they don't like it, parents automatically jump in and rescue them. Discipline is helping your child through those moments, not taking over those moments. For example, if you spend $200 because your child says, I want to go to this class, I want to go to this class, I want to go to this class, and then finally they take the first class and say, I don't like it. And you say, okay, you're not even giving your child the chance to explore for more than one day to understand whether or not they really do or don't like something. I have another perfect example. Last year, I had a 4-week daily group mentoring session with teens from all over the world. One of my students is very introverted, very shy. And after the first session, her mother called me and said she doesn't want to have to participate because she didn't like it. Now, she is a part of my online schooling program, and I told her mother that she didn't give it a chance. She was uncomfortable once, so I called the young girl and I spoke to her myself and said, what seems to be the problem? I said, these are great young people from all over the world, all with different skills and abilities, and you sat there with your head down and didn't even look up or respond to them when they addressed you. So, what made you not want to participate? She said, well, they're all so incredible. Most of them have great talents, and others created different tech things, and someone else now has a podcast. So I said to her, that's great for them. But when it was your turn to talk about your interests and what you do and what you like and introduce yourself, what you should have said is my name, and I love creating animated videos. I ride horses in competition. I play the guitar. I also love to write and create beautiful, interesting stories. So I was sitting there, and as I'm talking to her, I was showing her the skills and abilities that she did not recognize within herself. She then thought about it, and I said to her that this is you. This is the person that you are, and those are the things that you do. You have great and incredible strengths, but you don't recognize that. And while the other children were telling their stories and accomplishments, you were trying to compare yourself to them instead of appreciating your own accomplishments. For you, they sounded like they had achieved more, done more, but you're all teenagers. You all have individual strengths and interests. They just show a greater presence of confidence, which is something that we need to work on with you. And so, the importance of this story is this: had I allowed her to not go through the 4 weeks of this mentoring program, had I not pushed her mother into saying that she had to attend this group, her mother would have allowed her to give up after being uncomfortable for 1 day. So you see that by that discipline that I gave her, that understanding why she felt the way she did, and learning that there are going to be those moments of feeling uncomfortable in life, she did attend each session for the 4 weeks. And by the end of it, she really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it. But had I given in to what her mother said, and she would not have had, that experience or been able to learn and share with 1,200 other teenagers from all over the world. Your role in your child's life is to be their guide, not their protector. And in order to be a guide, you need to understand the underlying causes and issues that are making them act in a certain way, whether they're going through anxiety, depression, acting out with negative behaviors. There is an underlying reason for that. And the only way you're going to figure that out is by talking to them, understanding them, and helping them along the way, not protecting them from the real world so that they aren't prepared when they actually go out to be independent. This is why today we live in this woke society where everyone feels like they're entitled to do something because many were raised that way. And we aren't helping our youth by validating their behaviors. The last example I'm going to give here is one that I got from a parenting group where a parent said, well, I want my child to be able to express themselves and do what they want to do. I don't want them to feel like there are boundaries or limitations by telling them that they have to go to bed at a certain time or that they can't use their tablet or play video games when they want to. And so when I ask them to do their homework and they don't want to, I don't force it upon them. And as I listened to this, I was in shock. And her question ultimately was, how do I get my child interested in learning when they just want to play video games and just want to play, period? And the response from the person being asked the question was, you have to, as a parent, set boundaries and follow through. So if your child wants to play their video game for 10 minutes, then you need to do something else for 10 minutes. It's a trade off. And if you say no to doing this, then I will say no to you playing your video games. You see, children don't know what they don't know. And so by you as a parent being disciplined enough to expose them to new things, then ultimately they will be more curious and want to learn more. They may experience and find out something that they didn't even know existed. However, without your guidance and without your help in exposing them to those different things that are out there, ultimately, they're not going to know about all of the possibilities that exists today. So while you think you're allowing your child to be free and open to do what they want because it's developing them in a certain way, you are also raising a child who will not be prepared for the real world that is out there and the future. So discipline and boundaries are not bad things when it comes to parenting. What it does is helps you have a better relationship with your child, ultimately earning from them more respect in what they may find as you being unfair with them today. Ultimately, is what is going to prepare them for the world they're going to experience in the future. Remember, discipline is not punishment, it's guiding your child to make better choices.